In my personal story, I was actually 8 months pregnant with my first child when 9/11 occurred, and so I've sort of tracked the last 20 years through her eyes as well as through my own, and I had no idea that that day was going to be such a dramatic turning point in my career, going from being an academic to being a national security policy professional. But it had that kind of impact on me, and so it's an amazing day here in the United States. We're literally back to September 10th. Both in terms of what day it is today, but also, unfortunately, in terms of the mindset of this administration.
And let's talk about that, because, of course, after the attack on the Twin Towers took the whole world by surprise, the result was the UK and the United States going into Afghanistan to try and combat organisations such as Al Qaeda and the Taliban, and move the clock forwards 20 years. And we're back to square one, aren't we? Does that worry you?
It worries me intensely. My old boss, Secretary Rumsfeld, who obviously was in the Pentagon the day that the plane crashed into it, wrote a really prescient memo in July of 2001 in which he said, something that basically is going to hit us. And I don't want to be up in front of a congressional committee recounting what happened at Pearl Harbor. That was kind of his frame of reference, that we didn't want another Pearl Harbor. Of course, 6 weeks later, we had 9/11. And I have that same feeling now that the jihadis you described have not spent the last 20 years, learning to play the flute and bake cookies. They have spent the last 20 years plotting against us, fermenting hatred against us, and I think are just waiting for their opportunity.
We've had reports of tens of thousands of jihadis allegedly going to Afghanistan, and up to 10 prescribed organisations now operating there. But what can the West do? What can America do when it comes to gathering intelligence to try and prevent another 9/11 now that we've departed from Afghanistan?
Yes, unfortunately, our intelligence gathering capabilities, and by extension, those of our allies, like Great Britain, of course, have been severely degraded by the events of the last 6 weeks. I think the precipitous nature of the withdrawal and the chaotic nature of the withdrawal means we didn't leave anything in place. We didn't sort of harbor or nurture the capabilities we need to keep an eye on this situation. So now we are basically at the tender mercies of the Taliban and any intelligence they care to share with us. I don't know how much I personally would trust that, but that seems to be the direction the Biden administration is going.
I mean, the Taliban have also seized an entire cache of US weapons, including helicopters and all sorts. What is the relationship between the Taliban and Al Qaeda? Because, of course, it was Al Qaeda who are the perpetrators under Osama bin Laden of multiple terrorist attacks around the West. But the Taliban, in theory, have said, well, we're not going to harbour terrorists. Can we trust them? What is that relationship?
Oh, I really don't differentiate all that finely between the Taliban and Al Qaeda. I think they have a parasitic relationship with each other. They each need each other. They are ideologically very closely aligned in terms of an extremist view of Islam, and also closely united in their hatred of the West. And so I think trying to slice and dice it and somehow come up with a solution that the Taliban are a partner for peace is a fool's errand, and it's just going to land us right back in another 9/11.
There's been a slight change in the nature of terrorism, it seems to me, over the last decade, where it has gone from being these huge, high-profile attacks to increasingly, especially under ISIS, the use of lone wolf perpetrators, individuals who go and blow themselves up, whether it be on public transport or at concerts, often with equally devastating effect. What do you see the threat of terrorism, the nature of the terrorist threat is today? Is it going to be more likely a big, high-profile, organised terrorist attack, or these independent terrorists who get groomed remotely online and take it upon themselves to carry something out?
I think you make a very important point there that you have the online radicalization that was not as widespread 20 years ago. And so I think all of the above, unfortunately, certainly a mass organized attack is what they want. But if they can't achieve that, they're certainly happy to deploy the lone wolves, as you put it, to sort of create a series of nuisance attacks that terrorize Westerners into modifying their behavior to suit groups like the Taliban.
Where are you at the moment in America on the scale of the alert systems, essentially? Are you on sort of tenterhooks that something could be imminent, or is there a feeling that actually times move forward? You might have more intelligence that you've gathered throughout the past 20 years on the sort of groups that are operating and are more able to intercept planned attacks. I mean, what is the threat level today?
Well, the administration, I think, is very much trying to play down any threat level. They have actually said that they think domestic, probably conservatives, are more of a threat to the country than Islamic terrorists, which I think is unfortunately just diluted. We need to be on a very high alert. Obviously, groups like Al Qaeda and the Taliban are very conscious of anniversaries. That's why they chose 9/11 in the first place. So tomorrow, I think, is a day that all Americans should be particularly vigilant, and our friends across the Atlantic as well, because as we don't differentiate between them, they don't really differentiate between us. So I think, as eager as our current administration is to put this into the past and move on, President Biden isn't even giving a speech tomorrow. He is visiting the crash sites, but he won't even give any formal remarks to commemorate the day. I think that's quite a symbolic gesture of trying to put it behind us. Unfortunately, sometimes those objects in the rearview mirror are closer than they appear.
You were former US Deputy National Security Advisor under President Trump. When he made the announcement that he was going to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, what was your reaction to that? What was your advice to him? Were you saying to him, don't do this? This could actually lead to an upsurge in terrorism in the region again that would create a threat on home turf? Or were you more sanguine about it if it had been a managed withdrawal?
Well, I think President Trump, rightly reads the mood of the American people who are not warlike and want to bring their sons and daughters home, and that's a good thing. But President Trump was also acutely aware of U.S. national security interests in the region and our assets, particularly something like the Bagram Air Base. As a logistics business guy, he understands, the importance of an asset like that and the American taxpayer dollars that were poured into it. So he was always adamant that all of the equipment would come out if we left. There wouldn't be this appalling arming of the Taliban that this administration has done. And, we can't say for sure what anybody would or would not have done had he had a second term, but it seems to me very likely that he would have been interested in retaining the kind of intelligence gathering capabilities you mentioned, even if we had a significant reduction in troops.
So if you're advising President Biden today, what would you be saying to him? What on earth is going on? Who is advising him? Has he got people in his ear telling him this is a disaster, this could pose a great threat to America and the West in general? Is he acting unilaterally? What would you be telling him to do?
Well, he seems to have surrounded himself with some very experienced hands, Secretary Blinken, National Security Advisor Sullivan. But these are all people who are in complete agreement with each other and have developed their worldviews in concert with him. So there don't seem to be any outside voices suggesting other courses of action. And, if I could make a recommendation, it would be to broaden what they refer to themselves as a kind of an echo chamber and listen to some other views, just for the sake of the country, and to try to develop more successful policies, because I don't think anyone can look at the last 6 weeks and declare the process worked. Clearly, the president wasn't given a wide range of options, and their assumptions were in no way tested, and I think that's very, very dangerous.
Victoria, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. And the thoughts of the British people are with America on this tragic anniversary.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.